I love seeing the light in somebody's eyes when they really hear and they haven't heard for so long. I just love being able to see people very excited about hearing better.
We never forget our fallen. I'm Bill Reynolds. I'm Director of Veterans Affairs. I write stories of our local veterans. I interview them, I collect their photographs.
I knew that my efforts here were never in vain.
And now we're shifting gears to do a video series so that you can meet these veterans up close and personal.
Some shrapnel came into my lower left leg. It fractured my fibula in 7 places.
Please join me in honoring these great Americans.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Jacob P. Miller was born November 2nd, 1986 in Granada Hills, but he was raised right here in the Santa Clarita Valley and graduated from Canyon High School.
I went right out of high school in 2005, and if it wasn't for my mother wanting me to wait to make sure this was a decision that I truly thought about and truly wanted to make, and I listened and it was for the best.
3 years later, the Marines were calling, and his decision was made.
Went back in 2008, and same recruiter, Sergeant Conforti, I'll never forget. His eyes lit up like Christmas, and he knew he had my papers ready, had my file ready. He already knew.
Jacob attended boot camp at Camp Pendleton in San Diego before beginning an adventure that would take him thousands of miles from home.
We were gearing up, constantly gearing up to go out and support whoever needed us, whether it was Iraq or Afghanistan. And 2010 came around, and command started telling us we're getting ready to go, and this where we're going is going to be pretty serious in the beginning of 2011.
He was sent home on a leave of absence before deploying to Afghanistan, where he started his combat tour of duty.
Here I am back home for 2 weeks, saying goodbye to friends, family, and trying to use that time as if it were my last time home.
Shortly after deployment, he settled in at Fire Support Base Fiddler's Green. He began calling an unfamiliar place home for the next months.
I guess any base that you go to for the most part is your home. You know, that's home. And that's where you're sleeping, that's where you're showering, that's where you're resting, it's everything. That's our slice of heaven in hell.
Jacob's infantry unit was assigned to train a battalion of Afghan National Army soldiers in order for them to retain control of their country from Taliban insurgents. Their support included burning down Taliban poppy fields.
Having poppy ash that was blowing in the wind, sticking to our sweat, to the dirt that was on our faces, on our gear, and then dripping down into our eyes. And you can't say, "Time out, Taliban." I can't see. Give me a couple minutes so I can wipe my eyes. And you know, that just threw another curveball into the situation.
No matter how many curveballs were thrown, Jacob focused on what mattered most to him.
Being with my brothers, that was it. That was all that mattered. As long as we were together, we knew we had a fighting chance no matter what we were up against.
On a mission to provide medical care to local towns, an enemy AK-47 and machine gun opened fire in the distance.
I have no problem saying that I froze. I was on my knees locked, they buckled, I went down. I wasn't hit, but I was stuck, for lack of a better term.
At the time, restrictive and frustrating rules of engagement required Marines to have positive identification before opening fire.
And the one thing that I wanted to do was just to get up and empty my magazine at that direction. I didn't care, but I didn't, because I knew I knew that if there was a child or there was a woman behind that bush, I was done.
During his tour, they had wins and they had losses.
We had four amputees, two of which were double amputees. I believe one quad amputee.
Some losses hit closer to home than others.
I remember he was walking point, stepped on an IED. He was stable going into the bird, and everybody heard that he had bled out on the way to the field hospital. He was new. He was a kid. He was brand new.
Many Afghan soldiers had no desire to fight for their own country, but those that did stood behind Jacob in a fight for their lives.
This one soldier from the Afghan National Army, we called him Mad Dog. I mean, the guy he was running. He went on every patrol that we went on until he was killed. Every patrol that I went on foot, he was there with his guys, and he would listen to us. He was learning, and he was good at what we were doing. He was good at what he was doing.
Jacob's tour finally came to an end when he returned to Oahu, Hawaii in 2011.
We got back. First thing they told us, we had brief after brief of, you guys are home, you made it, it's time to celebrate, but please try and do it responsibly.
Through immense danger, stress, and much frustration, Jacob proved you just cannot keep a good man down.
I love seeing the light in somebody's eyes when they really hear and they haven't heard for so long. I just love being able to see people very excited about hearing better.